Hello again, welcome back to the podcast, and great to have you here. So I cannot quite believe that we're up to about 65 odd episodes of the podcast that I haven't done a podcast episode on this subject, but I am going to talk about, I think, one of the most important sales subjects that are critical for you to achieve success in your business and in your work that you do as a salesperson. And it's all about your sales plan. And by the way, the reason this is an important thing that I talk about a lot is that there is a video that I've got on my YouTube channel. If you've never followed me or had a look at me on YouTube, take a look. It's James White Sales, the videos. There's about 400 or 500 videos on there, which you're more than welcome to have a look at. You might be watching this from YouTube, in which case right now, that's great. But so Help I Don't Have a Sales Plan is my most popular video. It's been seen by like 65, 70 odd thousand people. And the reason that it's so popular, I think, is because this is a challenge that so many people have around, I don't have a sales plan, where do I start, what do I do? And whether you are in a position where you are in a management role and you've been given a chance to be, take on a senior role in a company and someone's asked you, right, put together a sales plan, or whether you're and you're running your own business and you've got some people you want to add to your team and you want to create a plan for them, or whether you're just starting up a business, you're thinking, right, I want to bring income in, I want to build a sales plan, then actually this video goes through, and I'm going to go through this on the podcast. And the reason this is also really important is I've just launched a brand new course all around giving you the perfect sales plan and tools to be able to engage and implement absolutely the perfect sales plan itself. And I've also got, at the end of the session, I'll talk to you about a little quiz you can take to see if the sales plan you're building is going to be on track. So look, why is the sales plan so important? So the reality is, if you don't have a plan to, you're not going to get to where you want to be. And if you don't know where you want to be, then that's a different discussion. But most people have an idea of where they want to go in business and to achieve things, but they don't then have a plan to make it happen. And if you don't have the plan, then you ain't going to get the success you want. And the reality is of any plan, let's say your plan for your business is, the starting point of any plan that I always talk about, the number one point is, what is it you want to achieve? What is the plan itself that you want to achieve? Is it a sales target? Most companies say, I want to hit a target. They might say, I want to hit, I'll give you an example. There's a company I'm chairman of, Green Hat Consulting. We are a growing construction business. We have a plan to hit £1.6 million of revenue this year. That is our plan to deliver that business number. And we have a clear plan, and that's a revenue plan. And we've then broken that down. I'll talk about that in a moment. But we also have a profit plan within that as well. So we have a profit plan to make a certain percentage of profit within that business. So we have plans and targets of things that we want to achieve. And the reason that we want to achieve those numbers are based upon a couple of things. So that target, in the case of Green Hat, we want to be growing as quickly as the industry that we're in. So we know that the service industry in construction is growing quite quickly because there's other people that see it as an opportunity. So that's one thing. We've also want to compare it with how we've grown in previous years. We also want to be able to have it as a chance for us to invest in our company and our business. And so we've added cost into the business with additional salaries and resources and materials. So we want, we think it's important and right that most businesses should make a good percentage margin. So we've created this target number that we want to be able to hit. So my first point that I say to everyone when you have a sales plan or anything around a plan is, what is it that is your target? What is it that you want to hit? What is it that you want to achieve? Is it a revenue target? Is it a profit target? Is it a customer target? The amount of customers you want to bring on board, because the average value of customers. Is it a market share target? When my previous company, 3Com, we had a target to achieve 5% extra market share. And all we were focused on was growing our market share because that was how the business measured things. So the question is, what is the first part of a plan and a sales plan is, what is the target that you have? And the key questions to be able to ask are, how can you split that target to make it achievable? And what does it look like to be able to make that target come together? So for example, if I take the Green Hat scenario that I mentioned, we're on a target to hit 1.6 million. We've broken that target down into months of, our financial year started in April. So we have months of revenue, which we want to achieve: April, May, June, which we break into quarter one. We have a quarter one target, which we break down into monthly targets. And then we break that monthly target down into even a weekly target of business that we've got to bring on board. Now, we know in that business that we have a certain amount of regular repeat customer already. So we have already around £800,000 of business in already there. So what we're doing is we're adding to that with the plan that we've got. But we also need to make sure that the sales plan is a sales plan. It's not a customer service plan, but part of that plan is to make sure we achieve the numbers. And obviously, if we lose people, that's not going to help. So first thing is, what is your target? What is it you want to achieve? What is the actual number? And try and identify, and I'm not going to go into the details of this now, but try and identify how many things you need to happen to make that number happen. So for example, again, going back to my green hat example, we know that in order to be able to achieve our target, we need to bring on board, on average, it's an extra, over the course of a year, we're doubling our monthly recurring business. We're, from around about, we're at 70k per month. We want to bring that up to about 130. So we want to add £60,000 a month for business. Now for us, in our business, a typical client on average be, £3,000 a month. So we know if we've got to add if we need £60,000 of target, and every average client is 3,000, then you can work the maths out that we need 20 new customers. So we know we need 20 new customers to come on board. But because we know that not everyone we speak to is going to sign up for us, we then know that if we need 20, we need probably around about 100, maybe even 150 customers or potential prospects to talk to in order to get that number to happen. So the first starting point of a plan is to work out what is the plan and how are you going to make that number happen and break it down. And by the way, these are all the things that I cover completely in my course that will give you everything you ever need to be able to know to pull those elements together. So that's the first part. First, you know your plan. The second part then is identify your customer and the customer that you want, or the customers you want to engage with. Now, if you're a brand new business, then obviously you're going to have a target customer that you want to aim for. But if you're a new business, an existing business or an existing company that operates, people say to me about a plan, I'm not sure what to do to be able to identify a plan. The first thing I start with is identifying your best customer. Because from that, and not just one, but let's say you took your top 3 or 4 customers. If you could identify the top 3 or 4 customers and you could identify what makes you right for those people, what is it about your service that they absolutely love about you? What is it, who are the customers that would tell everyone else from the rooftops about you? Who would be your testimonials? This is a great way for you to be able to build a plan around how you move forward to find others, because there's an old saying, right? If you're doing something, something's working. If it's not broke, don't try and fix it. So if you've got an existing business that you're delivering a service or a product to existing customers, and those customers love it, and they think you're brilliant, and they think you have a USP in the market, then what we ideally want to do is to identify those customers and find out the key characteristics around who they are, so that we can then go and try and target more of those type of people. So point number 2 I talk about is identify your best customers or your ideal customers. And people say to me, there's always a saying, the riches are in the niches. But people say, I don't want to focus on a specific segment because I worry about being, putting all my eggs in one basket or whatever else. It doesn't, an industry, a niche doesn't have to be an industry. It doesn't have to be a vertical. It might be a set of characteristics. It might be a set of way in which that person thinks. It might be a set of problems that they have. But the key thing is to identify that sweet spot audience that you've already solved that problem for. So again, in Green Hat's case, we know there are 4 or 5 organisations who we absolutely love, that love us, what we do, that pay us per month for the service, that value the service. Their CEOs really think it's important. They're happy to invest in the service that we offer, and we know the type of problems that we solve for them and what we can do. So what we want to be able to do is, now we've identified that, is to go and find more of those. So which leads more nicely to point number 3. So when you've identified your best customer and you know who you're going to target, and by the way, going back on some point 2 quickly, you've got to ensure that in order to be able to hit your target, there is enough of your target audience. So what you don't want to do is, let's say you have a target, let's say in Green Hat's case, we've got a target to grow our business by sort of around £500,000. If there isn't enough of the target customer to be able to make that happen, or let's say we would need, I've mentioned already, we need 20 leads or 20 customers. If there's only 20 customers in the whole market space, then it's highly unlikely we're going to get them all. So you need to have enough of the target audience to be able to make sure that you can achieve the goal. So that's something to bear in mind. And again, reach out to me if you've got any questions on that. I'm happy to share some ideas or thoughts around that. So the third point is identifying them. So now I know who I'm going after, and I know the type of characteristics. It's there about how do I start to identify them and know where they are, And then how do I start to make sure that I understand and engage with them based upon the problems and challenges they have? Now, in terms of identifying them, again, if you're selling to a business audience, you can find there are companies out there where you can get access to data. So again, Cognicism is one of them, is Lusher. There's a few of them. There is a company called ZoomInfo. I will be honest with you, I had a very bad experience with ZoomInfo, a very bad experience. So I'm not going to say to you, they're an option out there. I don't like them the way they treated me, and I will never recommend them, but that's just me being personal. But there are other companies out there that have data. Or the other way to do it is to hire someone, hire a PA or hire someone in, on Fiverr or Freelancer, and just go and do some basic Google searches. For example, and again, in Green Hat's case, and I'm using them as a good example, we work at the moment with, construction companies. We know our audience. They're normally around 5 to 45 million pounds of turnover. We go and search on them. We will literally search on Google for those people. We've hired people to go and search on Google, and that brings up a number of companies. And we can then go and cross-reference that company information with some information on a public company's house record. So we can identify people from doing manual work. But there are companies that will provide that data and also the contact information, the names and the email addresses of people as well for you. So the key thing is identifying your organization, your target audience, and the type of people you want to engage with. Now, bear in mind as well, just because it's, let's say, for example, again, Green Hat's case, we target the commercial directors or the directors or the CEOs of construction companies. It may well be that there are, other people in their organisation that we have to work with, but that's our target audience. Now, if obviously your audience is different, you can have to find out what your audience is. But because we know the audience and we know the problems and issues that those group of people have, we're able to then go and write down what we know matters to them and is impactful to them. So our CEOs will tell us, for example, that they want to sleep at night. They're worried about an accident occurring on their construction site. They don't want the worry of that. Therefore, they want to be in a position where they've got assurance that it's not going to happen, and we provide that for them. So we know the problems and challenges that they have. So that's point number 3. We're able to identify them. We're able to identify the actual information on who they are, but we're also able to identify what matters to them, what causes challenges for them, what are the things that gets in their way or that causes them challenge and problems. Okay, so point number 4 is we then want to then engage with some materials and content to be able to share information to them. So my belief on a plan, especially if you're selling to other businesses, if you just try and then say, oh, those are the people I want to speak to, and then pick up the phone saying, hey, do you want to buy my product or service? They're going to say, oh, I don't know you, who are you? It's going to create a whole load of other questions, and it's not the right way to go about it. Whereas if you can start going and creating documents and materials and content that they find valuable. So, for example, we would create a resource such as why you need to have an external health and safety inspector alongside your internal team, or why a 100% inspection score on your construction site is not a good thing, or whatever. We will create content and materials in both video, in blogs, in guides, in resources, in checklists, so that we can share that information when we talk to people. So I always talk to people around different types of content. And there are 3 types of content. Again, I cover this in the sales plan. But there are 3 in the sales plan course. But there are 3 types of content you need. You need tofu content. So I'm not talking about vegan stuff here, but top of funnel. You need mofu, which is middle of funnel, and you need bofu, which is bottom of funnel content. And there are different types of content you need at different stages. So, for example, tofu, top of the funnel, you want stuff like videos or podcasts or simple overview checklists, for example, that are just simple for people to access and consume, that builds a perception up of you and your organisation. In the middle of the funnel, you might be looking for more how you make their problem come together, or it may well be a quiz, for example, that you do, or a webinar, for example, that you run, which is where they've got some insight into who you are, but you're building a close relationship with them. And then the final, what I call BOFU, bottom of the funnel content, will be things like case studies, where we would use testimonials or implementation process outlines, where we'll show, here's when you become a customer, what we do. So those are the types of contents that you want to create. And again, we want to focus the content on dealing with the problems that your audience faces. And people say to me sometimes, James, well, I don't want to create too much content. So if I create content and give it away, they're never going to use me. It doesn't happen like that. It may happen in some cases, but most people want to pay for the service. Even though they know that the materials are there, they are going to want to utilize your service because they want your help and expertise. And I'll be honest with you, the sales plan course that I'm launching, there is a version of the course that is where you can have access to all the materials to create it yourself. But there's also a version where you can have my help. And if you want to pay that a little bit more, invest that a little bit more, I should say, to get my help, you can get that. And people generally do want to pay for implementation because they want your knowledge and expertise. So look, content is a really critical part of that process. And that's, the fifth point that I always talk to people about. Now, the next point is, now once you've got the content, and you've then got to then be, to be in a position where you start to, prepare to engage with your audience. And that's why point number 5 and 6 are about preparing and engaging. So the first thing about preparing is, how do we go about start to interact with people? How can we, and there are only 2 ways to generate leads in business. To hit your sales plan, there's 2 ways. There's inbound leads, where leads will come to you, or there's outbound leads where you go to see other people. And depending on your audience, there are some people that will peruse the internet for resources and materials and, have access to things, but other people won't. They'll wait for people to come to them. And I believe that the best sales strategies and best sales plans have a mixture of both outbound activity and inbound activity. But we've got to prepare for that. We've got to prepare for it. So you don't have to, but you're going to be in a better position. If you've got lots of leads coming through, but then you don't actually then send them the right information, or you don't respond in the right way, then you're potentially going to waste an opportunity. Whereas if you've prepared a response to send to someone when a lead comes in, or a proposal template, for example, when you're in a position to have a conversation with someone, or a brochure, for example, to be able to showcase who you are and what you do, then you're prepared to be able to engage in the right way from a materials perspective. But don't also forget that preparation involves training and making sure your team are prepared. So one of the other elements around training is making, and preparation, is to ensure when your team do pick up the phone and have conversations with people, that they've got practice and know how to do this. And I've talked a lot that sales teams generally fail because they don't know what to do or how to do it properly. Well, again, give them the right support and materials to make sure, give them the playbook, give them the content to be able to, and the training to be able to go and execute on a plan that will work and get success. So that's point number 5, in prepare. And then point number 6 is, you have to do the work. At the end of the day, there's no point having all the best goals in the world if you don't make them happen. I might want to, run a marathon, but if I don't make a start by, going in and start running, then I'm never going to be able to do it. So you've got to then start to be able to engage in some campaigns, whether that's inbound campaigns where you create the leads to you, and that may well be, you may put a lead magnet up, you may put a quiz, you may put a guide up and expect people to come to you, or the outbound campaigns where you start to reach out to other people. You've got to take that action and make that happen. And like I say, if you don't engage in the right way, then you will fail. And I often see organizations that approach campaigns like this, both inbound and outbound, who fail completely because their approach is just the wrong way. Or when they do get a lead, they get what I would call a marketing qualified lead, and then they try and sell to it too early, which fails as well as a result of it. So you've got to accept that you've got to generate those campaigns in the right way. And as I say, there's materials that I will, got to support people. Have a look at the YouTube channel, as I say, if you get a chance, on the sales plan. There's some resources there as well. Or reach out to me and we'll talk through what that can look like. So there's point number 6, right? And then the final couple of points are around actually persistence and value. And one of the things, as I've talked about in lots of my podcasts, is around sales is an ongoing journey. If you expect to just talk to someone tomorrow and then sign up the day after, I think you're unlikely to happen. You're going to get disappointed. People, unfortunately, take time to get used to things and to build up affinity and to do things in a certain way. And so I really encourage you to just accept that these things take time. And so prepare, do things in the right way, have persistence, but don't give up too quickly. Just continue to offer value, continue to share insights, continue to share things that your audience has. One of the other great tasks to complete is to, when you're thinking about the process of the plan, is to write down the top 30 or 40 problems and challenges your customers have. Write those down and put those on paper, and that will help you so that you can, make sure you continue to give that bit of value. I always have this saying, I say, show sales value before sales vanity. So if we start talking about who you are, give value, give insights, give stuff that's going to help people, and give them the elements that they're going to need. And remember that don't give up too quickly. Remember, as I've always talked about before, this Google 0 moments of truth. Google did this test or this study where they identified how people make purchases. They identified that people need 7 hours of content across 11 interactions, across 4 media in order to trust someone to work with them. So 7, 11, 4. Have you tried across 11 times to engage with someone across multiple media? And one of the things I do cover off in the campaigns is multiple media works. You want to hit people at different angles. Oh, it's him again, it's him again, it's him again. That's where people then start to build up that sense of who that your company is and what you can do. So keep that persistence and value. And then the final thing really is to be in a position where you build up rapport. So once you've opened up the door, once you've gotten a lead, initial connection, how can you start then to have great conversations? So how can you earn the right to do more business with that person? How can you get that person to like you and to want to build up a relationship with you? And again, a lot of the time that comes when people do things in the wrong way. They get a lead and then they go straight in to try and sell to that person. There's a model I use called LAPS, which is, again, I provide in the plan and outline how you can put this together, which is about how you can approach these first calls to listen, to ask, to probe, and to summarize. And so making sure you build up that rapport and get people to like you doesn't mean to say they're automatically going to buy from you, but we all know, as Robert Cialdini always used to talk about in his book Persuasion, it's all about know, like, and trust, and we've got to get people to want to work with us and to see us as helpful and valuable before they're going to think about buying from us. So look, those are the things that I know that make up a really solid sales plan. There's a couple of other things that you can add in there around the systems and the processes that you use and the compensation that you have for sales teams and some other elements around that. But if you stick to those 8 things that I've talked about, you're going to be in a really good position to build a solid plan that can work for you and generate opportunities and get you where you want to be. Because ultimately, it was your plan to get to a certain place, and you want to make that happen. And I want to help you make that happen. So, look, I hope this video has been useful. As I mentioned, I'd love to get you to have a look at some of the stuff that I share here in this material. If this is an area where you're thinking, yeah, I do want to build a stronger sales plan, then reach out to me. The course, the materials I share can be really useful for you. Or even just not, as I say, go onto my ineedasalesplan.com and take the test that I've got. I have a little test there, a little quiz that you can take on what chances of success with your plan. And I'll ask you some questions, and if you get the questions right, you get a 100% chance. I'm going to say you're in great shape. But if you get a few things wrong, that I think, or not wrong, but if you haven't put things in place that I think could hamper your impact to make a great plan, then I'll also tell you that as well. And we'll hopefully, as I say, share the resources that can get you where you want to be. So look, that's it for me on this edition. I hope you found it useful and helpful. I think sales plans are critical. If you're in any business or you want to make something happen, your plan is critical to doing that. So put a plan in place. Even if you don't take the advice from me, take it from someone else. Make sure you do what you need to do to deliver on the results you want and get you and your company or your business or your own role to where you want it to be. So as I always say, I finished the podcast with an inspirational story, and I wanted to share a story of a young man called Ravi Adelkam, who was, sadly, he's 8 years old, and he was diagnosed in 2021 with a non-cancerous cancerous tumour on his brain. And he had some life-saving surgery, but he had to learn to walk and feed himself again. And despite his own difficulties, and he's an 8-year-old lad that's gone through this, he's been determined to help others, and he's been giving back to other people, and he's raised more than £80,000 for charity, for the charity that helped him by being able to, even though he's had tough times, by doing a number of activities. So I think people like Ravi, again, Ravi, Adelekan, Ravi Adelkan, an inspirational story of someone that overcame challenges to go and make other things happen and help other people. And I hope those stories can help you do what you want to do. As I always say, this podcast is for you. It's to help you achieve whatever you want to. And I hope that Ravi's case and scenario and example can be a light for you to go and do what you want to do. So that's it for this week. Hope you enjoyed the episode around the podcast and around the sales plan. If you have, let me know. If you haven't, let me know as well. I'm always open to ideas and thoughts and feedback on how I can make things better. So thank you for giving me your ears. If you can subscribe and review the channel, that helps us a lot. Helps us make sure that we get the podcast out to more people. But until next week, have a brilliant week ahead, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care.